Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Thriving LDS Singles podcast. I'm Kay and my co-host Kim. Hi, Kim.
Hello.
Hi. And today we're having a discussion about the word trust. So we think that trust is like right up there in the top things that we need in relationships. And we're going to talk a little bit about the dating world and trust in dating and in relationships. And because many of us have had experiences of lack of trust, so we're going to go into all of those things. So, Kim, do you want to talk to us about the model of trust and where it fits in relationships?
Sure. There's actually a few models. There's more than probably we could ever talk about, but a couple that I like. So I can just start out by saying that Gottman, of course, has done a lot of research. He has he has a book on trust, which is a really good book. But he talks about trust in a romantic relationship is built very gradually, slowly over time, and that it's all about what he calls sliding door moments. And a sliding door moment is a time where you can tune into or be attuned to what your partner's needs are. And he uses an example when he talks about it of, say he's reading a really interesting detective novel and he thinks he knows who is the murderer and he's really excited to finish it. So he goes in to go to bed, he puts it on the nightstand and goes into the bathroom to get ready, and his wife is in there brushing her hair and she looks kind of sad. And this is a sliding door moment, right? Because he really wants to go back in, crawl into bed and read his novel, find out who did it. But he could attune in to his wife. And so that's what he does. He takes that moment and says, "Hey, what's going on? And you look a little bit sad." And then she, tells him what's bothering her, or what's upsetting her. And so those little moments over time is the number one way he says that we build trust. And he refers to a model called attunement. And attune is the acronym. So the A is for awareness. The T is turning toward. The second T is tolerance. The U is understanding. N is non-defensive responding. So just being non-defensive listening. And then E is empathy. And so if we use that model, tuning into our partners, that's one of the best ways, or he says the only way really, to build trust in a relationship. I don't know. What do you think of that model?
That's really good. So just going to, for those who don't know, Gottman is a researcher, a psychologist who's done a lot of work in relationships, particularly marriages. And I know his groundbreaking work is he can predict when he sees two people talking, he can predict whether they're going to stay married or get divorced, literally on how they talk to each other.
Yeah, and he really is like the number one, even in schools today. You don't get out of schools learning anything about families and psychology without getting a course on Gottman.
Gottman, yeah. So we can trust his version of trust. He knows what he's talking about. And I remember reading what do they call him? The 4 horsemen of the apocalypse for what are the 4 main things that will break up a relationship.
Yeah.
And it's, the stuff before the obvious stuff. So it's the, not talking to each other nicely. And it would be those sorts of things, not being aware of your the partner, the resentment that builds up.
Right?
Yes. Yeah. So I like that model because it shows, I guess I would have called it caring. It's like
yeah. Well, you probably couldn't find the letters to match the words, Kay. You'll have to work on that one. You can make your own model.
I made my own
Kay's model for trust.
So let's sort of go back a little bit. So what do we think trust is?
Yeah, that's good.
And I guess I feel it's like a commitment, you're going to do what you say you're going to do. So you know that you're going to do it, and everybody you talk to knows that you're going to do it, and they know who you are.
Yeah. You can
I
count
guess
on
the
them. You
scriptures
can count on people.
yeah, at the moment we're reading the scriptures about Helaman and his 2,000 stripling warriors, and they're talking about the word integrity that goes with that, and it's sort of another word, isn't it? It's like you know who they are, you know what they stand for, you know where they're going, you know what you can trust them.
And that gets into another model, I guess it is, about building trust, which is the 3 C's. And that's commitment, capability, and consistency. And that's what you're talking about, because, if they're consistent, they're committed, and they're actually capable of doing whatever it is you're expecting, that builds trust. So those 3 C's are really what you're speaking to in terms of being able to count on somebody, I think.
I think so. Yeah, that's sort of my definition of trust, I guess, is when someone says they're going to do something, they do it. When someone and so in a romantic relationship, it's deeper, isn't it? More than just you're going to turn up on time when you said you were.
Yeah.
It's knowing that you can trust them with your heart, with your feelings.
Yeah, that's a perfect lead into a definition, a couple of quotes and definitions I have.
Okay.
One is from Charles Feldman. He says trust is choosing to make something important to you vulnerable to the actions of someone else.
Do that one again.
Choosing to make something important to you vulnerable to the actions of someone else. So it's a pretty good definition of trust. And there's one of distrust to go along with that. That is, what I've shared with you that is important to me is not safe with you. So that's that
certainly would be distrust. Yes.
Good distrust. And then a couple other kind of fun ones. Trust is as precious as gold and as fragile as glass. Which, when you think about, it's trust can be pretty solid, but the second the trust is broken, it takes a lot of work, I think, to repair a broken trust. You have to put a lot more effort into rebuilding something than building it up the first time and maintaining it. What do you think about that?
Oh, absolutely. I think once trust is broken, it's very, very hard to get back, because I guess that goes back to that vulnerability. Like you've put your heart in someone else's hands, and if they've damaged it, it's like, I don't want to do that again.
Yeah, that's hard. And we generalize it then to everybody else too, right? Because if it's happened to us once, sometimes we generalize it by gender. If we're betrayed by a woman or by a man, then we don't trust any men or we don't trust any women. So trust is really fragile like that, I think. We have to be careful.
Yeah, very fragile.
Yeah, and then Ernest Hemingway said, the best way to find out if you can trust somebody is to trust them. And that's true, but it's hard. Right? I mean, is there any other way?
Well, and that's so when we've had our hearts broken, when we've been vulnerable and been stomped on, it is very hard, isn't it, to go back into like, okay, I'll start a new relationship and I'll share some of those vulnerable parts of me.
Yeah.
Yes, very, very hard.
I have found that as I've been dating more and building up new friendships, from moving here and not knowing anybody, that I have found in building new friendships and starting to date again is that it's a lot easier for me to share that vulnerable stuff the more confident I am and the more of a strong relationship I have with myself and with my Heavenly Father. It makes me, I would say, kind of not feel as vulnerable. Like, as long as I know those two things are solid, then it's not so scary, I guess I would say. Or it's not as fear-based to be vulnerable with other people.
Okay, so that goes back to the thing we often come back to, which is we have to heal ourselves.
Yeah.
So no matter what's happened in the past, whether it's been our marriages or whether it's been friendships that have stomped on us, the cure, the solution is to heal ourselves. And once we get healed, then we're in a position to be able to have the bravery to go do that again, because we have learnt that we don't break, even if they stomp on us. It's okay because we're still good.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Yep, that's good.
But yes, it can be hard to get to that level of healing.
Mm-hmm.
And it does this thing called forgiveness. That word again.
Yeah, that's true.
If people have broken their trust, we have to forgive. We don't have to go back into that relationship. We don't have to be vulnerable in front of that person again.
Right. We don't have to accept. We just have to forgive.
We just have to forgive. And that, people sort of like, well, I'll never forgive that. They did this and they did that. And I love that statement about forgiveness, where it's like not forgiving is you drinking poison and hoping the other person dies.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true.
And that's what forgiveness is about. It's about healing you. It's like they can go on and be whatever they're going to be. But you have to forgive for your sake.
Yes, because people get caught up in thinking that if I forgive him, it means I'm allowing or I'm permitting or I've somehow validated what was done. And none of those things are true. So
that's right. Forgiving's not about that. It's about taking that burden off yourself and going, I'm not the judge here. I don't have to do this.
Yeah.
And I'm going to let all that anger, resentment, hurt, all of that stuff go.
Yeah. And I think you shared at one point, you shared a story about a friend that you felt that relationship was damaged in some way because of a trust issue. Do you want to share that story or talk about that? It wasn't a romantic relationship. It was just
it wasn't a romantic relationship. It was a friendship. And I thought it was a good friendship. Like, we had a lot in common. We did a lot together. And we had like the church and our hobbies and our businesses all, we were
had a lot of synergies with each other.
Yeah. So and one day we were at a work function, and we were the function was a mastermind where we were sharing what had gone well in our business in the last month. And my business had done very well, and I was sharing that. And she blasted me, absolutely got so furious at me, and just like blah, 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 really. And unfortunately, my response when someone does that to me is to freeze, which is a childhood response.
Right, right.
As I'm just sitting there like this deer in the headlights, taking all of this abuse, basically.
Yeah.
Calling me greedy and irresponsible and all sorts of stuff.
Oh, wow.
Right? In a work meeting that was in
front of other people.
In front of us. And one of the other people stopped it. She went, enough, and she tried to sort of, like, whoa, let's redo that better. But probably because of my childhood issues, that is just, I cannot cope with that, to be blasted like that.
Yeah.
And it has taken me forever to do exactly what I just said we have to do, which is to forgive. And I can't trust that person again. Like, unfortunately, we cross paths relatively often, and I can't trust her because
she got put in the no longer safe for me to
no longer safe
spend
for me.
time with.
Yeah. And it was very dramatic for me.
Yeah.
And hurt. And I haven't I reckon my business hasn't done as well since.
Really? So it kind
Mm.
of scarred you a bit too. It's put some things came up that maybe you still need to work on addressing, or some beliefs that got implanted that need to be pulled out.
To be pulled out. Yes, yes. And so, yeah, that's just a friendship trust issue, really. But it was very, very damaging to me, because, yeah, I thought I was in a safe environment, and
Yeah,
I wasn't.
that's unfortunate.
It is.
And it's a good example. Let's go through Brene Brown's model, because she
Yeah.
talks about trust, and her acronym is braving. Hers is a little bit like, it's a little bit hard to get your head around all of her definitions. I might have to read some of them, in fact. But B is for boundaries. So honoring each other's boundaries. You know, if you set a boundary, you honor what other people's requesting of you, their boundary. Um, and then also you honor your own boundaries. Like if you set a boundary and somebody's observing it and you're breaking your own boundary, then that really deteriorates the trust. So it's not just your boundaries with other people, but your boundaries that you set with yourself, and especially if it's something that other people can observe. So
Mm.
something to think about. And then the R is for reliability, which we've already talked about, just being reliable. So that kind of goes to the other models and things we've mentioned. And then accountability. So in the case like your situation, there was no accountability. She hasn't come to you to apologize or say, hey, I that was really out of line, and make amends. So that's the accountability. Own your mistakes and make amends. That goes a really long way in building trust. So that's the A in braving. And then V is vaulting, which I think is a really interesting one. Yeah, I think
Say
she had
that
to
word again.
really vault, like as in gymnastics, the vault.
Oh, okay. Yep.
She had to really stretch, I think, to get this in there and fit in the trust acronym. But how she describes vaulting is when we talk about other people behind their backs. So because if I am sharing details that I probably shouldn't be sharing, say for example with you, Kay, what that causes in your brain is, wow, if she is sharing that about this other friend, what is she saying to them about me?
Mm.
And so it's a huge a deterrent, I guess, to building trust. So talking about other people or sharing information you don't have the right to share with other people.
Yeah. That's true, isn't it? You sort
Yeah.
of do wonder, like, oh, she'll
Yeah.
say that.
Yeah. And sometimes, like if you're naive in me in my marriage, I should have picked up that cue a long time ago. Like, if he's saying that about all these other people, what's yeah.
Mm.
But I was really naive about that. So be aware. Think
Yep.
about that now. And then the next one is I, integrity, which we've already talked about. So having integrity. Um, and then the next one, N, we've kind of touched on this one as well too. It's non-judgment. So just don't get defensive, don't judge, be non-judgmental when you're which is another hard one for all of us. Because especially we just did our episode on shame where we were talking about, being judged by others and how it shames us. And really a lot of that is based on our how strong of a person we are, or how healthy we are. And if we're judging other people, then we're automatically assuming they're judging us. So like, that one also goes back to some of that healing and working on yourself. And then the last one is generous interpretation, which means give people the benefit of the doubt and that they had good intentions, no matter what's going on, which I think that's a really common, even in Stephen Covey's 7 Habits, that's mentioned all over, that we really need to be more generous in how we are interpreting other people's behaviors. So that is the braving
That's
model.
braving model. I like it. I like it. And yeah, that the non-judgment, generous interpretations, that goes in every area of life, doesn't it? You sort of, when
Yes.
your brain goes, whoa, look at that person. And then you go, hang on, You don't know what happened in their life, don't?
Yeah, it's so true.
And we do it in every area. The fat shaming was one. I remember going to this seminar once, and we were doing, it was a whole bunch of psychologists who work in the weight loss industry, right? There's psychologists working with this, so they know this fat shaming stuff, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And it was a question, like one of those ones where you answer questions really quickly, and everybody came up with some fat shaming still in their psyche.
Yeah. Yeah. That one
like,
is a big deal. It's very unconscious, I think, for a lot of people.
we just don't even realize we're doing it. You know, sort of from employment to trustability. It was sort of, the questions were in all sorts of areas, and they weren't obvious questions, like you said, because you had to answer them really quickly, and they were often worded the other way around. So it was getting into that sort of subconscious part of your brain. And every single person in the room came out with some level of judgment.
Yeah.
And it was, and all of us were like, oh, we
did it
worked with this, and we thought we were good on it.
Yeah.
And so that's just one tiny little bit of how judgment affects how we think in every area of our life.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, that's where the shame episode went to, wasn't it? It was like you know, how difficult it is to be at church and divorced because we feel that people are judging us, because we've got this opinion about what perfection looks like, and this isn't what it looks like, type of thing. Or
that's right.
You know, so all of those sort of very subtle judgments that we're making all the time about people. I reckon that's my daily repentance, is judgment. Every single day. And so that generous interpretation and non-judgment, obviously, we don't know why people behave, say, do the things they do, what's going on for them.
Yeah.
But when it comes to a romantic relationship, we want to really be aware of these things. So is the person reliable? Do they do what they say? Do they have integrity?
Yeah.
Are they trustworthy?
Yeah. What you're saying is really critical, in that it's not just about talking about them. You have to spend enough time with each other and be patient enough in building the relationship that you see all those things in action, and you have good evidence of those things, and in not just how they treat you, but how they treat other people. Because if they're treating other people differently than they're treating you, that's also a good indicator of that they're maybe not so trustworthy.
Wasn't that what we were told when we were teenage girls? It's like, look how the guy treats his mother.
Yeah. I wasn't told that, but yeah, it's common advice.
It's good advice. I tell my children, you know, if you're, you know, my girls, if your brothers don't like him, that's a red flag. You know, if people are picking up other things, then, you know, obviously everybody's got different opinions, and you're going to have people that like and dislike. But if the people who know you the best are having negative feelings, But yeah, I like your 3 C's one. I think that's an easy one to remember. The commitment. So do they just do what they say they're going to do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And are they committed to you? Like, do you have a good sense of that? Are they committed to the relationship in the right ways, you know, but which is all about keeping their word.
Keeping their word.
Yeah.
The integrity, you know, integrity is a lovely word. So,
yeah.
And then capable, I guess that really is that, you know, some people just have things that they still need to heal in their life, and they're just not going to be capable to be trusted.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean they're necessarily, we don't judge them, but that just means we're probably not entering into a close relationship with them.
A lot of times you're functioning from where your mental and emotional well-being are, and it's easy sometimes to assume that everybody else is functioning from the same place, and so you do have to be careful of that.
Oh, yeah, I do like it. And yeah, what are they capable of giving? We often, I think in all relationships, we hope and expect for more than the person's probably capable of giving.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, we have to be careful of that. Expectations are a recipe for disaster.
I expect
That's the
perfection
real
on the other
answer.
side. What are you talking about? I'm clear on my expectations. I want perfection. Thank you.
Yeah.
So yes, everybody's human. Everybody's going to have their moments, their things. I know one that used to upset my husband, is I'm not very good on time. It's like he used to get very frustrated about it. He was one of those people that thought 10 minutes early was on time.
Yeah.
And I'm the person that thinks about 5 minutes late is pretty close to on time.
You're good. You're Mormon Standard Time. You're okay, Kate.
But
But
I think
in
because
Scandinavian countries, the culture is on time is 10 minutes early or you're in trouble. I mean, it's a big deal. And it shows a lot of disrespect if you're not there 10 minutes ahead.
yeah,
So
exactly,
it's a
yes. Yeah.
big cultural thing.
One of the ways we coped with that in our relationship was if it was something that was important to him, then I would tell him to not tell me what time we have to be there, just tell me what time you want to leave the house.
There you go. That's good that you worked out an arrangement. There's one of the Gottman principles is that we've brought up multiple times is that those little things 70% of the time they are not going to go away no matter how much you yell and scream at each other or make contracts or whatever, try to get the other person to change. They don't. And so you have to move to a place of acceptance or you're going to end up down the divorce path.
It is, isn't it? It's like time was it was one that we had some pretty massive fights about. And he would like to be at the airport like 2 hours early. It's like,
Oh, a man after my own heart.
oh. I was
I
like,
have a
we
lot of
have 15,
stress about running down terminals.
we have 15 minutes from the airport. It's like, fine, we can leave it. We can wait till we see the plane landing. It's all right. So yes, that's right. So that capability, I'm capable of being on time when it's really important. And so working with that in our marriage was very, yeah, as you said, it got rid of a lot of fights when we worked out that if it was important to him, just tell me when we're leaving. And then there's nothing to fight about. The other one was he had to learn that I didn't like going on holidays until the house was clean. And he didn't
I
understand
like that rule because makes getting home sucky if you don't do that.
Yeah. And so again, he had to learn that, like, I'm running around doing all this stuff, so don't pace up and down, help me clean.
There you go.
So yes, we did actually get that one solved after a number of fights. But I think, yeah, that speaks to that word capable, doesn't it? It's like, what are we capable of? Each one of us is going to have little idiosyncrasies that will drive the other person nuts.
Yeah.
And some of that just won't change all that much.
Yeah. So you better ask yourself if you can accept it.
Accept it or find ways like we did around
move
it.
to a place of acceptance.
And then the consistency. Like I think consistency to me is so important that you can, I don't know, because they trust the person. That's what we're talking about, isn't it? But that you know who they are day by day, that every day they're actually.
Yeah.
So one of the, I guess it was a good point. No, I shouldn't say I guess. I know it's a good point about my husband, but he was the most honest man I have ever struck. And I can remember something about, I was saying, oh, well, we could do it like that. And he got really mad at me and said, no, I thought you believed in honesty. I was like, dishonest. So yes,
what that reminds me of is my mom just told me this story about my dad. She was in charge of collecting money for a wedding present. and they decided to pull all the money from the neighborhood, like 30 different people, and put it into a pool and then go buy a gift certificate to a nice restaurant. So that's what they did. When they got to the restaurant said, oh, when you buy a gift certificate over like $100 or whatever it was, we give you $40 in gift certificates back. And so, of course, my mom thought, wow, that's amazing. This is like a win-win. I just got paid for all that time collecting and everything, right? But my dad, no, he went to the bank and got $1 bills and gave everybody their share of that gift card that they got back. So that's like the ultimate in integrity and honesty.
Well, it is. And you know, if we were to be honest, you'd think, well, yeah, that's honesty.
Probably, yeah, that's probably the way it should be done, but it
Yeah,
would
I'd
have been
probably have been
okay with
like,
everybody the other way.
yeah, that's right. I probably would have been like your mum. And that's where my husband was too. He was the one who would have done the dollar bills, which is the real honesty. And so, yes, that consistency, that you know that you can trust this person, that they're
Yeah,
going to have those traits in every situation, even
yeah,
when the temptations are in front of them, even when when it's, many of us would be going, no, that's all right, that's fine.
yeah.
They're
And
still,
the big thing about consistency is we have that thing about accountability, right? Owning a mistake. But if you're making the mistake over and over again, even when you make amends, pretty soon it doesn't matter anymore. It's the consistency that matters. So, it's fine if 9 times out of 10 you're doing what you committed to, and something gets in the way, and that 1% you mess up and you make amends for it. But if the equation's the other way around, that is not going to build trust with anybody. No matter how much amend making you make, sorry and amends can only go so far if it's a consistent issue.
except for one person that we know that will forgive us every single time.
Yes, that is so true. I don't know. Maybe we should subscribe to that model. What do you think?
No, I think I'm quite happy that God's the person that does that.
He can take that on and we can choose to move on.
Because we're talking about different relationships here. So,
Yeah.
if it's a person that you're looking at being romantically involved in, I think it's very important that, yeah, they're mostly consistent. And yes, everybody's going to muck up sometimes, but mostly consistent. But yeah, friendships, obviously we could maybe take a bit more leeway. But yes, someone who messes up 9 out of 10 times, no, sorry, we don't judge them.
No, we just need to make a choice of whether we're going to be able to accept that or not.
Maybe we just
How
choose.
much do we want to invest in this person?
That's right. How much do we want to invest? But God is the person who will forgive us every single time, no matter how much we mess up.
Yeah. That's a
which
very
is
good
nice
reminder.
to know. Yeah, that's nice to know that we've got somebody on our side that, just because I judge people every single day, even if it's in my brain, maybe I shouldn't be admitting to a fault like that. I don't know.
Just work on repenting from it, Kay. Just keep working on it. That's all you can do.
Keep working on the repenting. But I know that even though I've stuffed up badly in my life, we have never upset God so much that he doesn't want a relationship with us.
Yeah.
So his consistency is there.
Yeah, I love that.
But, going on to that trust in God, it can be hard when things in life aren't going our way.
Mm-hmm.
And
to apply these worldly human models to him when really you're right, they just don't apply, because he will always be there and we can always trust him. And the sooner we learn that and leverage that, the better. Right?
I wish I had known that early in life.
Yeah, me too.
Because, yeah, he loves us. He doesn't judge us. He never moves away from us. He's always there for us. But I do know that people will ask, It's like, but I've been praying for this righteous desire for so long and it's not happening.
Mm-hmm.
So how can I trust him?
Yeah. Yeah, we can, because he's got a grander plan in place, and we have to learn to trust his timing as much as we trust, that our prayers are going to be answered. It's going to be in his time.
So I know many widows in my position. I see it every day, people asking the question of like, why did he take my righteous, good husband? Why
Yeah.
did he leave me in this position? Why, we prayed, we fasted. Why didn't
Yeah. It's a
we
hard
can't,
one.
obviously we can't, it's a hard one and we can't answer why. But that's that trust in God. And
Yeah.
this is, I don't know, I find this trust can be quite hard, can't it? Because it's
Yeah.
like he has a plan that we don't understand.
Mm-hmm.
And
And we don't know what he's doing behind the scenes. I mean, a story comes to mind about a person that was wanting a child and was praying. A couple was praying and praying, and they actually even went to the temple and prayed and fasted together. And they both came out of the temple, and uh, they I can't remember if they were actually praying about the child at that point or they were praying about something else, but they both came out of the temple with the same answer. And the husband said, what did you get an answer, and what was it? And the wife said, well, I did get an answer, but it was a crazy answer. And she shared it, and he was aghast because he was like, I got that same prompting. And it was to adopt a child. And so they started going down that path. And lo and behold, they learned all these things that had then gone into play for months ahead of time, made it so they were able to adopt this little girl. And they could see God's hand in it after the fact, because it was very clear that he had been preparing for this for a long time. And it makes me get emotional. But so we just don't know those things. We don't know what's all in play. And so it is awfully hard, but we do have to trust that he's watching over us.
I guess I've lived long enough now that I can look back on my life and I can see that.
Yeah.
And I'm actually writing some of those stories because, yeah, some of them took years, and you would never imagine that was leading to that.
Yeah. I love that. That's going to be so
Yeah.
awesome for people to read, for your family to read.
Because it's being able to look back over 10, 20, 30 years of life and go, I see.
I love
And
that.
there were many times in that where I felt that God wasn't there. Where was he? What was happening? Why aren't you helping me? And when you look back, you go, oh, that was actually really good. Thank you.
I love that. That's a great place for us to end on trust, is with trust, making sure we know that we can trust God.
Trust God. So, look out for other people because there's always going to be humanness.
Yeah.
But trust God because he's got it. So thank you, Kim, talking today about trust.
Yes, thank you.
Such an important topic because many of us have been hurt on this topic. And so very important to learn what trust is and how to be aware, I guess.
And how to invest in making ourselves trustworthy. That's all we have control over, is how do we make ourselves trustworthy?
How do we make ourselves trustworthy?
Yeah.
Very good. All right. Thank you, Kim.
All right. See
We
you.
will again next week.
All right. Bye.